Hello, everybody. I'm Jalen, and today I think what we end up building is quite possibly going to be the coolest thing I've ever made. I've done just a little bit of sketching and creative, but enough to know that I've got a great concept down for a cool autumn forest in this area, as well as a haunted mansion. And I'm going to just stay completely focused on this, just have a nice, satisfying montage of putting it all together. Go ahead and cut out all the trips of me going back and forth between bases and gathering a few things. But yeah, I've had this area picked out for a while. Gonna have some buildings along the river back here, and I figured some nice, tall, colorful birch trees behind it will make for a really good backdrop. And then, like I said, we're gonna hide a haunted mansion in the back there. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us here, including clearing a lot of spruce trees. I was planning on mixing them in quite a bit as I was going, but as we keep going on the project, we kind of clear them out of the way. So yeah, figure we got a path starting over there somewhere, so we're just gonna kind of sketch out an area for our path in the forest here, because we do always like to have a path. And back here is where we'll have the mansion, but got a little bit of work to get done before that. Mainly I want to get the concept for these trees down for you, and this is what really has me excited for the base. Is I got just sketched these out a little bit just to figure out how I want to build them, and I just think they end up looking really cool. I'm using the andesite or tuff for the trunks and the branches, and yeah, in nature trees are sometimes a lot more gray than you might think, so it actually ends up working. I tried to make one with kind of a split trunk and wonky branches, but I end up deciding it wasn't worth it, and that these ones work just fine, and they're just a lot easier to make. So I just go with the nice, straight, tall, kind of repetitive trees here. I mean, they end up looking all different because I break the branches off different. And yeah, I just go around with the color. I work kind of a gradient up from yellow to red. I'm trying to keep things as airy and spacey as possible with these full solid blocks. And in the end, I was just super happy with how it ends up looking down here. Got this first one put in and all these trunks put up, and you can just see how this forest is going to look once we get all this color put in. I think the gradient up, just everything about that tree, I'm just super excited about, and that's what really got me excited about this project, figuring just spread these all over this forest here. It feels like a can't miss proposition. And what's really going to bring it together is a haunted mansion down here, right where this tree is actually. So gonna go ahead and chop that down. While I was at it, I chopped a few other trees in the area because we're going to need to do a little bit of terraforming before we make this mansion happen. I figured I was going to have to be placing a bunch of dirt anyway to terraform things up here and smooth things out. And I like to have my buildings raised up by a couple blocks, so I went ahead and just got creating a platform here, which this actually ended up being a pretty big project, but well worth it. Glad I did it. And I was clearing out a bunch of dirt from underneath that, which actually works out because in the future I will be putting a pumpkin farm down here below the mansion, which will make this place slightly functional at least. Yeah, definitely put some work in, just trying to blend it with the natural terrain. And I didn't fully do everything in this first round, but we got things feeling pretty good. Definitely opened up some space to work up here, and you can imagine we'll have the rock wall kind of hugging down here what's going to be a pumpkin patch area. And we'll clear these trees a little bit as well, and slowly but surely spread the forest all the way down to the ocean there. But yeah, you can see just how much cooler it's going to look, the fact that I got it raised up those blocks instead of being sunken down into the ground. And I'm going about this build a little different. Rather than sketching out a whole floor plan like I usually do and building it all at the same time, I'm just building this main center portion, which is a 13 by 15 rectangle, and just kind of using it to figure out my concept, which I am really liking the color palette I got going on here. As far as going for the haunted feel, this dark on dark, and I just never use nether bricks, and for what I'm doing here, I think they actually work perfect. And yeah, wanted to get the face of the building sketched out a little bit, and just in my mind, I'm just trying to think what looks like a haunted house. And I did a lot of work in the dark, and it looked like this, so we'll skip ahead to the morning when I was putting in the purple windows, which I think ended up being one of the coolest details on this whole build. I think just the whole darkness going on. I'm just really happy with the look here. And like I said, we'll get some wings expanded off of both sides and make it a little more interesting. And obviously, once we get things finished up, it's going to look a lot better. But I really wanted to stay focused on getting these trees going because honestly, as cool as the house is and as cool as it's going to end up, the trees are really what make this build special to me. For one thing, I've never built a custom forest at all. I've done custom trees here and there, but definitely not a custom forest. And I've never built fall trees like this, other than a couple very small ones, just by themselves. And yeah, I think I can honestly say this is the most artistic build I've ever made. A few more of those details to come, but I ended up expanding things out quite a bit now that I got the house laid in. I knew I wanted to get some wings off to the side, so I opened things up on both sides a little bit. And I lit up underneath just because it was quite the mob farm. Like I said, eventually we're going to go down there and really open things up. And I've found that nighttime's a good time to put the leaves in the trees because I don't need to worry about it being bad footage anywhere that I really want to get good footage at. Went ahead and got the rock wall put in, far from detailed, but you can just see the concept down here with the house above it, and down here will be a pumpkin patch, which I got clearing out all these trees while I was here for, since we're going to need to do that eventually, ending up with a lot of spruce throughout this build. Opened up a bunch here as well, just opening up the view to the ocean. I do plan on, over time, spreading the forest all the way down there and all the way back here. Today we'll kind of just get a border along the pumpkin patch, but it'll be fun to watch it all expand, which I'm going to want to expand on this hill as well, so I ended up making my way up here and chopping a bunch of trees down. And working through the nights, getting new trees up and getting leaves on the ones that were already there, slowly but surely chipping away. And yeah, just every time I get another tree filled with leaves, I'm just getting more and more excited about this area. And I was planning on keeping a few of these spruce trees to kind of blend it with the surrounding forest, but the more and more I'm getting the colorful trees in, I decided the spruce trees were just kind of in the way, so this looks a lot better being opened up like this. And I started switching the gradient on some of the trees here, went from red to yellow instead, which I think ended up just looking really cool, getting that slight variation amongst the trees here, and man, it's just coming together nicely. I'm really enjoying watching it come together. And just breaking off to do a couple trees at a time is actually pretty relaxing. But I like going back and forth, so we're gonna jump back into getting the house put together here, starting by just finishing our main building here. From this point on, I'm going to show a little less of the tree making here, but you can just figure at nighttime I'm out here either putting up tree trunks or filling in leaves. But I'm definitely spending the daytime focused on the house, including the big project of getting the roof put in, and I went with crimson wood for this, which only brought the palette together more for me here. This palette's just awesome, and I'm really liking this build. Just so different than anything I've ever done, just the dark on dark. And it's really getting a haunted feel, I feel like, and I've got lots of plans to make it even more haunted, and getting the wings put on are part of that. So I went ahead and just extended things off, nothing too fancy, kind of copying the concept we'd already been going with. I did get a nice big tower put in here. I figure that's just something you see on a haunted house a lot of times. Went with a nice tall Victorian style roof here, and I made the top gazebo style just to open things up and break things up a little bit. I think it looks awesome. Plenty of details still to be done, but we're definitely getting things put together. And go ahead and get this other wing put off just to balance things out a little bit. well as a nice tall chimney in the back just to balance things out even more. And yeah, you can see trees popping up slowly but surely. As this forest filled in, it's just getting cooler and cooler all the time. I've been putting in work, as you can see. And then I got working on the exterior a little bit, just getting a nice little porch put in here. And then I kind of got sidetracked and ended up just going around and adding a bunch of stone mixed in with the natural terrain here. I just always think it looks a lot better. As well as finishing the wall on the back side of the house and getting a little border around the yard using the mangrove roots as dead bushes. Also snuck a pond in here just because, you know, I always like to do that. Spent a bunch of time training the land, and of course at nighttime just getting trees put up and putting the tallest one of them all right in front of the house here, which will be cool, just having it rise above the other trees a little bit. And I had to take a trip out to the cave, so on my way back, this is my first time flying over the forest here, and oh my gosh. All I could say is this is when I really realized that this build is separating itself from anything I've ever made before. Just not only the color of the trees and the single trees themselves, but just the placement of the trees and the way the house sits in the forest here. And I'm just liking everything about it. I really like the waterfall and the pond back here, and we're going to slowly but surely keep adding details around here. We're not going to do too much with the interior today. We will come back here and get the pumpkin patch going, and I like having the trees kind of lining the area. Obviously only a couple for now, but we'll fill it in over time. But I was in a groove of working on the house here, so I just kept on at it here. Had to get some details added to a couple of the wings here. And I think using these nether bricks in the corners of the tower here really brought it together, made it look a little rounder, a little more structurally sound. And the exterior is coming together really nicely. And like I said, I'm not going to do too much with the interior, but I did want to go ahead and at least get a floor in. And what better floor than using the dark stone with the skulls in it. I figure that works well for the haunted theme and the dark theme that I've been going with. Got a little patio put on the back side here. Then I went around and spent a whole bunch of time putting in some spruce wood, kind of working like shadows and just to rough things up a little bit, make it look a little more worn, because it can't be a perfectly nice haunted house. And definitely spent some time doing that, as well as going around and knocking out a few holes and using some stairs to just create little holes in the build, which I usually don't do this type of thing. Obviously it's something I've seen done many times, but I think for this build it just works perfectly. And then I wanted to do the same on the roof, so I hopped up there and started just putting in some upside down stairs where normal stairs were, as well as using some slabs here and there just to try to make things look a little more worn. And I gotta point out the vibe this place has at nighttime, with it just being barely lit up, just the torches in the building and no lights around. I think it's looking awesome, but I'll go to sleep to avoid the phantoms. But yeah, the exterior is just coming together really nice here. I like the worn roof we got going on, but I decided I wanted to sink the top in. Something I've seen done many times, always looks really good. I've never really done it to this scale, at least. As well as going and getting some nice points on the tower we got going here, working their way down. And yeah, you can see the sunken roof. It just really adds to the haunted vibe. And another thing I've never really done before that just really steps the build up more than I might have even thought, as well as the points on the Victorian tower here. Those couple details on the roof just really give this build a lot more character. I was having so much fun with it, as well as just getting the holes in the buildings here, something else I've always seen done many times, and the few times I've tried it, I just didn't think it really fit with what I was going for, but for the haunted build we got going on, everything's working perfect. And you can see we've been grinding away, getting trees put up and some leaves put in. But I want to get going on this pumpkin patch. Started by just giving a little border around what's going to be the outside edge of the patch here. Mixing in some netherite fences as well to go with the theme. But I wanted to have a giant pumpkin in the back corner. Not too giant, but definitely an oversized pumpkin. I wanted it to have a interesting shape rather than just being a extra big block. And I think it ended up looking really cool. I don't believe this is the first custom pumpkin I've ever made. Nothing huge or fancy, but I really had fun with it, so I kept going with that concept and made this pumpkin patch mainly custom pumpkins, just seeing what I can come up with. And I think I had a few that turned out pretty cool. As well as just a couple blocks, just to might as well. I'm really liking this thing. Really liking the vibe we got going down here. Went ahead and spread some normal sized pumpkins as well just to make it work. Then I wanted to get the trees filled in just to really complete the vibe. Made a pretty big push here. Definitely took some time. By the end of the episode, though, I would say I could probably make one of these trees start to finish in about 10 minutes, which actually isn't too bad when you think about it. Get those spread around the area over time, and this forest is just going to be awesome. And I was having fun here, since I already had the trunks put up. I could just kind of fly from tree to tree. And yeah, like I said, at this point, I was just kind of working my way up from the bottom, and it took me about 5 minutes a tree to fill up with leaves. And at this point, I don't know what to say anymore. I think I've already said it quite a few times. I'm just more and more amazed every time I get done doing a little leaf filling session here. I'll bring the leaves down a little bit on these trees. I realize they're a little skimpy, but I do bring them down here eventually. And yeah, the vibes down here are just doing it for me. This pumpkin patch is a big addition, and it really wasn't that much work. And like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig up here, I'm going to smooth out under here and just have it planted with a bunch of pumpkins that I can come and harvest when I need a stack or two of pumpkins. Because once I get trading, my little pumpkin farm over there isn't going to quite be enough for the area. So it'll be nice having a massive pumpkins to come and chop at some point. And yeah, one last little session of details here, which I think this is another thing that really separates this build, is I wanted to have some leaves on the ground. You can't have all the fall trees with no leaves on the ground, so I went around and just started spreading some color, and I thought it was looking pretty good. But then I decided, what about buttons? I figured we had a yellow, an orange, and a red button, so I just started going crazy and spreading them around as leaves. And I did go pretty crazy with this. I don't believe buttons cause much lag. Let me know if that's something different. I looked it up. I couldn't get a straight answer, but I don't believe they cause lag. If they do, let me know. But they definitely look great for leaves. And then I wanted to work on the path to the stairs a little bit here. Go ahead and get it lit up along the way. Of course, we're going to use jack-o'-lanterns for the lighting. But other than this, I'm not going to worry too much about lighting up the area. I know it's kind of risky leaving the mobs around, but being a haunted area, I like the darkness. Got to have a little bit of light just to follow the path. But yeah, and then I figured a haunted mansion always seems to have kind of a broken down, rickety entrance into the yard. So I kind of put something up like that real quick, and I think it adds a lot. Got spreading some spider webs around and putting them on the house as well, but I end up taking these down in a second, and I'll point out why. And got leaves put on the last tree, and then I decided for a few of the trees I'm going to use wool at the top. Not for all the trees, but just a few, just to give a nice little extra pop and differentiate things a little bit. And it actually ended up being a really cool idea. But although I didn't mind the spider webs on the little entrance there, on the house they were just contrasting too much and standing out way too much. So I replaced them with lichen, which actually worked out really nice for spider webs. And lichen's another thing I've never used. And I know I said I wasn't going to light up the area much, but I did want the trees to glow a little bit. So I just put one either shroom light or glowstone in the middle of each tree. And I think it's just ends up looking awesome. And I can't say it enough. I've already said it a bunch of times. I am as proud of myself as I have ever been for a Minecraft build here. I think this is by far the most artistic I've ever brought a project together, especially just from start to finish, staying focused and getting this all done here. Even though I'm not actually done, because I do plan on adding some details as I come up with them. I really like the boarded up windows. I think that's a easy addition to a haunted house build. And yeah, I think the lichen just works out perfect. It's just a lot more gray rather than white. And now you can see the lights in the trees and the difference they're going to make. And like I said, I just put one in the middle, so they're still kind of darker at the top and the bottom. But I think it works out nice. The interior is something we're going to do in another episode. Maybe next episode. I'll be getting it done this fall for sure. I got another autumn build or two planned out. And yeah, the lighting down here, the pumpkin patch. I just couldn't be happier. Go ahead and take a flight, because it's always nice to get a good bird's eye view of things. And yeah, our area over here is just looking awesome at this point. And it's expanding at a pretty decent rate, actually. But yeah, now you're going to see why we put the lights on the trees. Oh man. The way it pops through the forest there, almost looking like fire even. And I like that I've left the house dark, at least to this point. I think it's kind of cool being more of a subtle detail to the forest rather than being the main attraction, at least at nighttime. And I figure being a haunted house, you should have to deal with some skeletons and zombies every now and then. But yeah, I know I've said it many times throughout the episode. I couldn't be happier with this build, and I'm really proud of myself. Honestly, I think it's the most proud of myself I've ever been after a build, so. I did go about this episode a little different, so if you liked what you saw and how it was laid out, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you want to see more of the same, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Yeah, as always, I appreciate you all for coming, and have a good day.